You're in Braves country. Line Up for Braves Country by D.M. McGee. A is for Aaron, the Hammer and Hank, the real home run king. Take that to the bank. B is for Bobby. Cox never cowered. He'd give Blue quite an earful on his way to the showers. C is for Chipper. Don't call him Larry. He would show up in Shea, the Mets he would bury. D is for David. Justice he'd bring. A Game 6 solo brought Atlanta their ring. E is for Eddie Matthews. 512 bombs away. Lit skies from Boston to Milwaukee to the A. F is for Fred. McGriff dog-biting crime. A fire was lit the day he arrived. G is for Glavin. Southpaw winds and kicks. Changing speeds east and west. A gem in Game 6. H is for Harry and his brother George Wright. The father of baseball, Boston pennants in flight. I is for inning, ending double play. Riley to Ozzie to Olsen all day. J is for Jones. Andrew let her fly. And his gloves in center is where singles would die. K is for strikeouts. A plenty from Strider. The quads in the stash, getting swings from that slider. L is for Lopez. Javi to B-Mac. Travis and Smurf, we've been lucky to see that. M is for Mad Dog. He won 355. Could swat flies with the changeup and still bust you inside. N is for Necro. He got to the hall by bending and knuckling and floating that ball. O is for Otis. Old Nixon could fly. The catch at the wall baffled our eyes. P's still for Peterson. We were all rockin' pearls. With Eddie and Jorge, we were out of this world. Q is a quandary for why Dale is not in. Murphy MVPs again and again. R is for ranking. The top pitcher's lore. Remember Kid Nichols, 107 WAR. S is for Smoltzy. The big three in the hall. When the game's on the line, you give John the ball. T is for Tyler, Matzik, and the gift of 2021, the entire night shift. U is for Chavez, but we say Uncle Jesse. The frames, the release, kept the batters guessing. V is Van Weeren, Skip Carey 2, Don Ernie Joe, the tales from the booth. W is Warren, spawn Johnny Sane. They'd ride him in Boston and then pray for rain. X is Mazzoni. Yeah, X marked the spot. Leo rocked next to Bobby, and his pitchers stayed hot. Why it makes us feel young, the game's main appeal. Chopping through the battery, there's no better feel. Z is for Zip Boom Bam, Ramalama Ding Dong. Throughout the summer, we sing that song. From AJ to eyeglasses and a hell of a pen. Mad Max, Uncle Charlie, win after win. A cannon from short, and RC you later. Acuna Matata, there is no one greater. Though you can't fit them all when you just A to Z. Think of your favorites in the rafters we see. I started with 3, then 10, 25, 47, 31, and of course 29. Let's not forget 21, 41, 35, the great 44, or 755, and old number 6, who led his great teams. The pennants were flying. It felt like a dream. From Boston to Milwaukee to Atlanta's TBS, a family, a tradition, Braves Country's the best. Line Up for Braves Country by D.M. McGee.
Like me, you can't smoke like me. So don't try and be like me. Let's party together. You can't drink like me, you can't smoke like me. So don't try and be like me. Let's party together.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
Why did you get so drunk?
You got drunk. I'm just really exhausted.
What's in that cup?
Rum and Cokes.
Do you have any idea how important this is? We're trying to save the bubble. Really? This is what you're doing? This is what you're doing?
Baseball is a beautiful thing. It's more beautiful in an old park. It's asymmetrical and quirky. But even in a dome with artificial turf, it's beautiful. The way the field fans out, the choreography of the sport, the pace and rhythm of it, the fact that that pace and rhythm allows for conversation and reflection and opinion and comparison.
In right field, the crowd is tormenting Strawberries, singing Darryl, Darryl. Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win.
And there's a fly ball deep to left. It's on its way. There it goes. And the Yankees are going to the World Series. Aaron Boone.
Ground ball stabbed by Folk. He has it. He underhands to first for the first time in 86 years. The Red Sox have won baseball world championship. Can you believe it?
It's a pastime, something you do. It's entertainment, something you watch. And it's a shared experience, something you talk about and read about. But you can apply those same three criteria to other things. What makes baseball special is that it's the best game that's ever been devised.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy.
Sure as God made green apples, someday the Chicago Cubs are going to be in the World Series.
A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it in front of Rizzo. It's in time. And the Chicago Cubs win the World Series. Cubs win. What a lucky break. The good Lord wants the Cubs to win.
How can you not be romantic about baseball?
If baseball is about caring, about loyalty and rivalry,
Braves fans are on their feet hoping for some kind of a bleeder or a seeing-eye single. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Fastball hit high and deep down the right field line. It's going back, back, back. Is it fair? Is it zip, boom, bam, it's gone. Ram-a-lam, ding dong, a 3-run shot, and your Atlanta Braves have taken a 1-run lead. She's gone, baby!
There's a very peaceful thing. It was created and played in pastures and meadows. There's grass, there's outdoors, there's everything that people thought was American and feel about America you get in a ballpark. And it's the wonder of walking through that dark tunnel and seeing a huge open space where men play the little boy's game.
I believe in the Church of Baseball. I've tried all the major religions and most of the minor ones. I know things. For instance, There are 108 beads in a Catholic rosary, and there are 108 stitches in a baseball. I prefer metaphysics to theology. You see, there's no guilt in baseball, and it's never boring. It's a long season, and you gotta trust it. I've tried them all, I really have. And the only church that truly feeds the soul day in, day out is the Church of Baseball.
Swung line drive left field. One run is in. Here comes Brave. Here's the throw to the plate. He is safe.
You're in Braves country. If there's a bigger thing going on right now, I don't know what it is. We're down to one strike here. Gurriel, the last hope for the Houston Astros. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Swung on, bounced over to Dansby. Dansby fires it over to Forrest. And here comes the dog pile. Fire the cannons in the battery. Do the chop all throughout Braves country. Pop that top. Your Atlanta Braves have won it all.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We direct your attention now to home plate.
Please remain standing. We call your attention to our bands here today. They will be jointly directed. And now, another fixture. Our national anthem.
So proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose white stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we once were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Play ball!
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to introduce today's teams as participants in this historic game.
Hey, Braves Country, Mac McGee here for American Rebel Beer. From the mountains to the prairies, to your pint glass with white foam, we're bringing back beer with a backbone. All that matters in our brew is taste and a touch of American excellence. American Rebel Beer, born in the USA. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are, Braves Country, here on Braves Country Radio on YouTube. But the Braves split the series in New York, and I know we would have much rather have gotten the win. But regardless, we did split the series in New York. And with that being said, we've got Philly coming in, and that's obviously going to be a big, big series, as the Braves need to win that series just to stay with Philadelphia, make sure they don't get too far away. You don't want to lose the series. You darn sure don't want to get swept at home. I think this series will have a lot to do with what the Braves are going to do at the trade deadline, to be honest with you. And if you look at this, if the Braves hold water, just, even if they were to lose the series, I still don't think they're going to be sellers. But if they win the series, I think it really puts a pep in their step as they head. This is the beginning of a 9-game homestand, 10 days in all. They are going to be hosting Philly for 3, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday at 1:35. Now that's assuming weather, because there's weather could knock all of that out of the box. But we're going to go on the assumption that the games get played on their days. Tonight you've got rain coming in. It's dicey, but I do think they can get the game in. I'll just put it that way. Saturday, more of the same. Unfortunately, it's not a day game. If it were a day game on Saturday, they could easily get the game in. The main rain is scheduled for Saturday evening. And then Sunday, the 1:35 pitch, that one looks a lot better. There's a little bit rain in the area scheduled for Sunday, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a ton to where you couldn't get the ball game in. We're going to be here regardless, and hopefully we don't get any long rain delays, et cetera, et cetera. But if we do, we've got some backup plans to keep you entertained. And looking at, the first thing I wanted to do was look at the standings because, okay, I mean, let's just be honest. Right now, the division is not the goal. When you're 10 games behind two teams and 9 games in the loss column behind both teams, you can't be staring at the division because it's too easy for the players to get kind of depressed when they go, good God, how are we going to make up 10 games, right? But if you look at the wild card standings, it's not nearly as bleak. At the top of the standings, you have Philly, which once again we're 9 games out. Milwaukee, which we are 7 games, and these are all in the loss column. I'm just going to the loss column because it's too confusing to worry about all the rest with all the uneven scheduling. And 7 games in the loss column behind San Diego. But obviously, we're going to have to beat San Diego outright. Now, Philly, the Mets, the Brewers, that ball is in our court. We can still manage it. So if you're wondering, let's say Milwaukee and San Diego or Philly and San Diego are playing each other, you want San Diego to win because there is no chance for us to win the tiebreaker against the Padres because they took the season series and there's no more games left with them. We can still tie with the Giants, so it's going to be dicey, but we want to run them down and pass them. The Giants, we are 6 games back in the loss column. In the loss column with the St. Louis Cardinals, we are only 5 games back. We were only 4 games back of Cincy and 4 games back of Arizona in the loss column. So, that being said, it's not nearly as bleak as it sounds when you realize that we've got a much easier schedule coming up in the near future. And we talked about this last week, but if the Braves can finish off heading into the All-Star break strong, they can close the gap on a lot of these teams. Remember, a lot of these teams are going to play each other and they're going to knock each other out. If you take care of what's in front of you, you'll eventually make up ground. Tonight we have Spencer Strider on the mound. I'm sorry. That is the Sunday game. Tonight we have Bryce Elder on the mound going up against Mick Abel. Mick Abel, good young rookie. He's a right-hander. He's got a 3.47 ERA. It's not going to be easy to go up against him, especially when you consider the fact the last few outings by Bryce Elder have been horrific. But if you look at what Mick Abel has been doing, so when he first came up, he blanked the Pirates. That was back in middle of May. Then he was sent back down for a few weeks. In the month of June, he's got to. Now that is on the idea, if you look past the first start in Philadelphia and you look at the start against Chicago, he went 4 innings, 3 earned runs. At Miami, we all know Miami's offense is far from elite. At Miami, he went 5 innings and 1 run. But his last outing versus New York, 3 innings, 4 earned runs. He got knocked out of the game. And so we'll see how he fares in the environment in Truist Park. That's a very tough environment, especially for a rookie pitcher. I like our chances tonight, and I do believe that Bryce Elder is going to pitch much better. Bryce Harper is not back, Royal. So, well, the assumption with Bryce Harper, I read a report this morning, they believe he could be back Monday. I want to say they play San Diego on Monday, but anyways, that's neither here nor there. He could be back Monday, so he's not expected back for the Braves series. He took some swings yesterday, and it's either today or tomorrow today he's going to take some more swings and then face live batting on Saturday. Yesterday he took swings indoors. Today it's going to be outdoors. They didn't say it in the report, but I wonder if he even traveled with the team. He may have, because I think he likes being hated by Atlanta, right? Regardless, today he's taking swings outside. Saturday he's going against live pitching. So he may have stayed in Philadelphia to do all that so that they can do it on their whim and not have to work around any kind of schedule with what Atlanta has going on. And then they'll probably give him a day of rest on Sunday, and then he would be reactivated. They're pointing at Monday for Bryce Harper. So there you have that. Back to Mick Abel. Tonight's start, I believe Bryce Elder is going to pitch well. But the Braves are going to have to – the Braves cannot continue to go out there and not score runs just because they haven't seen some young pitcher. Last night, the bullpen of the New York Mets, which is not elite, mowed through that lineup. We got one base hit from Marcell Ozuna from the third inning on before Olsen's 2-out hit right before the game ended. But that's ridiculous. And what's even more ridiculous are the dead at-bats that we get at the bottom of the lineup. Look, I don't expect anyone to go out there and get a hit every day. Baseball is the most difficult sport to play. The hardest thing to do is to hit a round ball with a round object, and you don't know which direction it's coming at you. I get that. But I expect professional at-bats on the regular. Okay, every once in a while, a guy's going to see a pitch he really likes at the beginning of an at-bat, and he takes a swing at it. Probably shouldn't have done that. But when it is constant, and I mean Ozzie Albies is always swinging at the first damn pitch of the game that he sees. He never works any counts until he gets much later in the game. I don't know where he got that bad habit from, but it is horrific, and it is ruining his career. Offensively, he is abysmal. But no one's focusing on that because Michael Harris has been so damn bad that nobody's talking about how bad Ozzie's been. Michael Harris has been absolutely ridiculously bad. And this pitching staff needs run support. You can't expect a guy to go out there, a rotation in the bullpen, go out there and shut a team out every damn night or to hold them to one run. You should be averaging going out there and seeing 4 to 5 runs. Instead, what happens is the Braves get them in clumps. They'll have one game where they go out and get 7, 8 runs, and that looks great, but then they get shutty the next day. So they'll say, we averaged 3.5 runs the last 2 days. Yeah, but you didn't score a damn run, and you got 2 hits the night before. That's the biggest problem. Now, as far as Bryce Elder is concerned tonight, you look at his last several starts. Now, look, the month of June has not been kind to Bryce. He has a 5.32 ERA. You compare that to the month of May, where he had a 3.18 ERA. You look at the fact that his last 2 outings have been horrible. 3 1/3 against Colorado, at home, in Atlanta. He gave up 4 runs, 7 hits, 2 strikeouts. At Miami last weekend, I felt like they left him in a little too long anyways, but he gave up 5 earned runs in 5 innings. 10 hits. He was peppered all to hell. Now, they did leave him in too long. They never should have sent him back out there that final inning. That did him in. And that was just bad management of the bullpen once again by Snicker. You've got to know that when you see a guy out there and he's pitching, you can't go off of just the runs. You have to know he doesn't have it tonight. Let's not push the envelope. You could make that argument with Grant Holmes, and it could have gotten a lot uglier, but Grant Holmes did a great job last night of getting out of the jams that he was in, and he was able to keep it to a 2-run game. You hold a team to 2 runs with your starting pitcher, that ought to be enough. to keep you in a game, especially when you're going up against the bullpen because their starting pitcher got injured. Normally, that turns into a disaster for a team. Instead, they went lights out. But when you look at what Elder has been doing, you know, one of the biggest things that jumps out at you is that of all the starts that he made, his best one was in San Francisco, where he went 8 innings, 1 earned run, 12 punch-outs. But he had an 8 strikeout night in Pittsburgh as well. But his strikeouts, typically, he's around the 2, 3, 4 range. 4 is about where you hope to get Elder as far as strikeouts go. His sinker, if it's not working, and his slider, those are his 2 pitches that absolutely have to be working, and they've got to be painting the zone. And that's the problem with Elder. He does not have the velocity to blow it by guys. He has to be outthinking them, darting the sinker in on right-handers and the slider away, and vice versa with left-handers. And he's got to be hitting the bottom of the zone with the slider, and the sinker, he wants to be living on the edges. If it's a right-hander, he wants to go inside. If it's a left-hander, he wants to go actually a touch inside off the plate, and it darts back inside. So we don't know what we're going to get from Elder, because Elder really is, he's a junk pitcher. He is a touch pitcher. He is a guy that is not going to be able to go, well, this isn't working. We're going to go back to the fastball, and I'm just going to grind through it. He doesn't have that kind of velocity. So that's what tonight's game is going to be about. It's going to be about whether or not he's hitting his spots. And I know you can say that for just about every other pitcher, but the difference between him and other pitchers is he can't rely on, well, I'm just going to rear back and blow it by you. He doesn't have that kind of stuff. So if he's not on it, the Braves better be pretty aggressive with Bryce Elder tonight, because you've got 2 really good starters, and I know it's the Phillies, but you've got 2 really good starters going on Saturday and Sunday. And then you have a day off. And the bullpen's pretty well rested. Because they were behind in last night's game, you didn't see any of the back end guys. We did see PJ, but the rest of the way it was Dodd and Peterson that closed it out. So the back of the bullpen is rested. If we have an opportunity to go grab the W tonight, and Elder's struggling in the 5th inning, hell, the 4th inning, you better go get him, because he kind of tells you in the first 2 innings what kind of night Elder's going to have. And if he's struggling, he's putting ducks all over the pond, even if he's getting out of the jams, you better go get someone ready by the 3rd, 4th inning, because it's coming. Because that 2nd time through the order, and you better know that 3rd time through the order, it's going to be a problem. I'm assuming he's going to bounce back. For whatever reason, he's pitched pretty well against the Phillies of late. So tonight, if we can get the win, then you just have to win one of the next 2 games. Saturday is a very good pitching matchup. Luzardo versus Schwellenbach. Don't let Luzardo's ERA fool you. He's sitting at 4.08. He's a much better pitcher than that. And he's a tough pitcher. He's a guy that the Braves saw when he was in Miami. He went earlier this year in Atlanta, and give you an idea of what he did. This is Saturday's starter for Philadelphia. 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, 1 earned run, 1 walk. But he has pitched against the Braves quite a bit over the years, so the Braves should be pretty familiar with him. The key to him is going to be get him out of his groove and get him out of the game. Now, he's had a bad month of June, but realize 1 start in Toronto, he went 2 1/3 and gave up 8 earned runs. And so they just kind of let him in. They left him in there to basically take one for the team because their bullpen was depleted. They eventually had to go get him. In Chicago, the Cubs, pretty good baseball team. He went 6 innings and 1 earned run, 10 strikeouts. Miami got to him, 5 innings, 4 earned runs. Of course, that's his old team. I don't know if that had any bearing on it. And then he was at home against the Mets his last time out. Looked very good, 6 2/3. No runs in just 3 hits and 7 strikeouts. So that's going to be a tough one. I think Schwellenbach's up to the task, 100%. Schwellenbach is starting to look like Schwellenbach again. Same thing on Sunday. You've got Spencer Strider, who's looked phenomenal his last 3 outings, and I think I don't know if you're going to say he's back yet, but he's definitely right there. He is on the cusp of being what you would call back. You almost had to see a little larger sample size of it, but realistically, his last 3 outings have been phenomenal. As far as who he's going up against, Ranger Suarez has always pitched the Braves well. They don't see him well. They have a terrible approach, whatever. He went 6 innings, no earned, at home against Atlanta earlier this year. That's the only time we saw him because he was on the IL to start the season. He has, of recent, the month of June, he's been lights out. He has 5 starts and an ERA of 1.3. That's in 34 innings. Not a big-time strikeout pitcher. He does have 28 strikeouts in the month of June, but he is what you would call a steady, rock-solid, I'm going to say number 2, but you could make an argument on some staffs he would be your 1. He's been that good. No one has really gotten him to the month of June. I mean, Pittsburgh scored 2 runs in Pittsburgh. That's kind of a bandbox. So it looks like he gave up a home run. It could have just been one bad pitch. But he is at home against Milwaukee. And, obviously Philadelphia is a hitter's park. Home against Milwaukee, 1 run. Home against Toronto, shutty. Home against or at Philadelphia at Miami, 1 run. It was just a home run, which means he went 7 innings and only 1 guy got to him. And then at at Houston on, Tuesday, 7 2/3 and just gave up the 1 run. It was a home run. So that's going to be a really tough spot there. And realize something, as much as we think that we're scratching and clawing and, man, we got to bounce back because we just lost 2 in a row to New York after winning the first 2 of that series. Phillies coming in after getting swept in 3 really low-scoring games in Houston. I watched a good amount of that series, and Houston's starting to turn into Houston again, and they're really starting to turn it on from the pitching standpoint. Luckily, we're not going to see Christopher Sanchez, who pitched yesterday. We're not going to see Zach Wheeler, who pitched on Wednesday. His next spot will be either Monday or Tuesday, depending on the Phillies schedule. But I do want to double-check that real quick. The Phillies do host the Padres early next week, and they actually play on Monday, so they're not going to have a day off after this series. We will, which means we have an advantage there as well, because Philly just came in of a tough, low-scoring series where they were dumping out the bullpen, and they don't have a day off on Monday, so they can't just, even though it's the Braves and it's a division series and et cetera, you can't just go bananas and go, well, we got to beat them because they're the Braves, because we're 10 games back in the East, 9 in the loss column. They're not as concerned about the Braves as we think they normally would be, because they're looking at big picture. They've got San Diego coming in, who's fighting with them for the top of the wild card. There's a lot of factors in play that says the Braves should win this series. I don't see a sweep. I do believe they're going to get to us at least one time. Tonight's game would be huge, because if you can win tonight's game, then you've got a very good chance of winning either the game that Schwellenbach goes up against Luzardo or when Strider goes up against, and both of those games are toss-ups, but you figure you're going to win one of them. So tonight's a huge game as far as trying to win the series. If you lose tonight's game, doesn't mean you can't win the series, but, man, you just really stepped in it because now you have to win both of those tough pitching matchups. Looking at the schedule for next week, we're off on Monday, and then Tuesday we welcome in the Angels, which I know Royal's going to be happy about that. Gets to see Travis d'Arnaud. I would think he'll catch at least one of those games. I'd say that they let him catch the first game so that the fans can give him a standing ovation. And, of course, we'll have Soler and, hell, half that damn roster and pitching staff is I haven't checked it on Ron Washington, but I'm assuming that he's not back yet and won't be back, because when they talk about health issues and indeterminate amount of time, I can't imagine that he's back that quickly. But that all leads into the 4th of July weekend, where we're going to host Baltimore. The Baltimore game will have the 3D up, but we do not do the play-by-play because it's the 4th of July. It's America's birthday. We're not we feel like you got to set aside time for family, and especially a holiday that celebrates the United States. Next year is going to be crazy, isn't it? We're going to be at number 250. We will do a Braves Country today. I'm not sure if I'm going to pre-record it and drop it or do it live, but regardless, it'll come on at noon on the 4th of July. And then we'll put the 3D up and do the either tape together some Once Upon a Pastimes and kind of put in some of the veteran show that we do, the Salute to Service show. We're probably going to mix it together because I don't want to play the exact same thing that we just played to you on Memorial Day. And then when we come off of the Baltimore series, we get another off day, which means we can be pretty aggressive with the bullpen next week. And we go out to Oakland, what was the Oakland A's are now in Sacramento, just going by the Athletics. They don't call themselves Sacramento. They're just the Athletics. We go to Sacramento to face the Athletics, and then we start heading back east, a 3-game series in St. Louis, and then it's the All-Star break. So if you look at that, and you look at that 12-game stretch, we'll go ahead and put the 3 games in here today. So that's what we're going to look at is these last 15 games before the All-Star break. I'm hoping for 10-5. I would be thrilled with 9-6. And if we do anything better than that, you're doing backflips. Anything less than that, you're going to be a little disappointed. If we're 8-7 off of the tomato cans that I just gave you, the A's and the Angels and the Baltimore Orioles, that's going to be extremely disappointing. You do have the 2 tough series that are bookending this because you've got 3 at home versus Philly, and you have 3 at St. Louis, and St. Louis is playing good baseball. When we first saw them at the beginning of the year, St. Louis is a much better baseball team than they were then. So it's not going to be easy to win that series at all. But that's what I'm looking at. 10-15 is the goal. We'll take 9-6. Anything less than that is going to be very disappointing. You'd love 12-3, right? You'd love to sweep a couple of these teams, especially Baltimore, as bad as they've been playing. It's really hard to assume a sweep on the road, but Oakland has been playing very bad baseball. I've actually been watching Oakland quite a bit. When we finish our broadcast, I watch a lot of the Oakland games, or I keep calling them Oakland, the Athletics games, because I like their young team, and I decided I was going to start pulling for a team out west in the American League because I'm up late doing production, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to pick a team that sucks right now and has what I think is a good future, and so I went with the Athletics. That's the team that I'm pulling for because I didn't want to go another National League team. I can't do it. And as far as American League goes, you go out west. I just have any kind of an affection for the Seattle area. Don't really care anything about it. And really didn't want to pull for Los Angeles. I like a lot of the players on the Angels, and I'll watch an Angels game every once in a while, but I don't really get into that. So that's why I've been watching. But anyways, the Athletics team is bad. It really is. They've got a good offense, terrible bullpen except for the back end where Mason Miller, he's just in the wrong park right now. It'll be interesting to see if they eventually trade him. The Braves should be knocking on their door trying to get Mason Miller. But because he has struggled this year, but I contend it is that ballpark. They're playing in a minor league ballpark where the wind blows out. It is a small ballpark, and the wind is blowing out, and that has a lot to do with why their ERAs are so high. If you see us get any of the pitchers from the Athletics in a trade deadline acquisition, whether it's this trade deadline or it's in the offseason, don't pay attention to their 2025 numbers. They're inflated. It's almost like being in Colorado. Let me see here. See if we got any comments. Appreciate the kind words, Uncle Charlie. I try to reel some of it back because I know sometimes I get emotional with it when it comes to calling the Braves games. Sometimes I beat myself up for it because I'm like, man, I really wish I hadn't wore my emotions on my sleeve. It's hard for me to separate it when it comes to the Braves. I hope Elder does great, Royal. I really do. As bad as he's pitched the last couple of times out, I got to see it to believe it. I love Ozzie Albies. I'm going to make that clear. I love Ozzie Albies. I love everything about him. He hustles. his personality, everything. But the problem that I have with Ozzie Albies is that he has no plate discipline, and it's gotten worse over the years. And I don't know if he's trying to cheat for whatever reason. I'm not going to say that age has got to him because he's not old enough to make that claim. But it drives you nuts. The thing is about Ozzie is I don't think he's going to be tradable because Ozzie Albies is pretty cheap when it if you compare to other baseball players over the next, counting this season, the next 3 seasons, because of club options. I just don't think they're going to trade him. I think they're going to hope that they get the best that they can get out of him and continue to try to work with him. And when he gets those hot streaks, they're going to ride those. And I still say that he's not as bad defensively as other people claim he is. But we're kind of stuck with where we're at. I don't think they're going to sign him to some long extension like we were thinking he needed to keep Acuna. I think by that time they will have either made the decision to extend Acuna and pay the piper, or they're going to let Acuna walk. I hope they don't. He is the best reason to watch Braves baseball right now. And I hope he gives them somewhat of a hometown discount. But Ronald Acuna Jr., if he gets to the end of this contract that we really lowballed him, if you think about it. I mean, we took a huge risk. But if you think about the big picture, we kind of lowballed him. If he gets to the end of that contract and wants to go test the market in Los Angeles or New York or Boston, wherever, Chicago, wherever, he's earned that right. I just hope they don't let him get to free agency because we've never signed any of our big free agents once they get there. Freddie, gone. Dansby, gone. Max, gone. Because they will not pay the AAV that some of the other teams will pay. Now, the Freddie contract can be argued that we actually gave him a better deal. His agent was just too damn stupid, or he was in cahoots with the Dodgers. I don't know which one. To realize that the Freddie deal was much, much better had Freddie signed that deal. Remember, he'd been coming up free agent a lot quicker. But that's neither here nor there. But if they're going to re-sign Acuna, they're going to have to do it in the next couple of years. I would say it's something that's going to happen in the offseason. Maybe they shock the world. Maybe they extend Acuna at the All-Star break. Wouldn't that be huge news in Atlanta? All right, we're going to get out of here. First pitch, 7:15-ish. We hope we avoid the weather. We'll see you next time here on Braves Country Today. The first game of every series, we do this. We'll see you. Braves Country, Mac McGee here for American Rebel Beer. America's patriotic light lager, all natural ingredients. Stand tall, be proud. The perfect beer to celebrate life, liberty, and your pursuit of the American dream. America's patriotic light lager, offering a crisp, clean, bold taste. Perfect beer to celebrate life, liberty, and your pursuit of the American dream. A beer with only 110 calories that tastes like a full-flavored beer and celebrates like freedom.
On a beer? 7 o'clock in the morning. Scotch?
Hey, howdy, hi, and how the hell are you? Pull up an armchair, girls and boys, and join us for Braves Country Baseball. You're listening live, and the scene is Truist Park in Atlanta, Georgia. We're set to bring you pitch by pitch, play by play of your Atlanta Braves. Hi, I'm Mac McGee. Here's your starting lineups for today's action. Leading off and playing shortstop for the Philadelphia Phillies, Trey Turner. 9 home runs, 35 RBI, 19 stolen bases, banged .295. Batting second, the designated hitter, Kyle Schwarber. 24 home runs, 55 RBI, 6 stolen bases, banged .247. Batting third, playing third, Alex Bohm, who has still not touched home plate on that Sunday night game. 7 home runs, 36 RBI, 2 stolen bases, batting .280. Batting cleanup, Nick Castellanos, 8 home runs, 41 RBI, 2 stolen bases, batting .281. Batting fifth, playing left, Max Kepler. 9 home runs, 27 RBI, a .209 average. JT Realmuto is behind home plate, batting sixth. 5 home runs, 27 RBI, 5 stolen bases, batting .240. Bryson Stott is batting seventh and playing second. He has 5 home runs, 34 RBI, 12 stolen bases, batting .243. Kemp is at first base and batting eighth. A .241 average with 1 stolen base, 6 RBI, and 58 plate appearances. Brandon Marsh batting ninth and in center. He has 2 home runs, 17 RBI, a .261 average. Head-to-heads versus Bryce Elder in their career. Turner's 1 for 4. Alec Bohm, 3 for 7. Castellanos, this is the big one, 3 for 6 in 3 home runs, 4 RBI. Kepler's 0 for 3, Realmuto's 0 for 4, Stott is 0 for 5, and Marsh is 3 for 4. On the mound for the Philadelphia Phillies, Mick Abel. The rookie is 2-1 with a 3.47 ERA, a 1.16 whip, 23 innings, 23 hits allowed, 18 strikeouts, 4 walks, 7 home runs served. He'll be going head-to-head with Bryce Elder. Elder is 2-4 with a 4.77 ERA and a 1.33 whip. 66 innings, 55 strikeouts, 68 hits, 20 walks, 11 home runs given up. Backing up Bryce Elder in the bottom of the first inning, and in right field for your Atlanta Braves, it's Ronald Acuna Jr. He's got a .369 average with 9 home runs, 18 RBI, 4 stolen bases. Batting second, playing first, Matt Olson. .257 average with 15 home runs, 52 RBI. Batting third, the designated hitter, Marcell Ozuna. 11 home runs, 40 RBI, a .240 average. Austin Riley, batting cleanup and in right field. He has 12 home runs, 41 RBI, 2 stolen bases, batting .267. Drake Baldwin is batting fifth and behind home plate. 9 home runs, 26 RBI, a .287 club. Ozzie Albies, batting sixth, playing second. 6 home runs, 28 RBI, 7 stolen bases, batting .221. Alex Verdugo is in left field, batting seventh. 12 RBI, 1 stolen base, batting .245. Batting eighth and patrolling center field for your Atlanta Braves, it's Michael Harris II. 6 home runs, 43 RBI, 11 stolen bases, batting .215. And Nick Allen is batting ninth and playing short. He has 14 RBI, 6 stolen bases, a .232 average. Game time temperatures here in Truist Park, Atlanta, Georgia, at 7:15 Eastern. First pitch, it's looking to be around 87 degrees, with the wind blowing right to left at only 3 miles an hour. There is a threat of rain, but it looks like it's clearing out and should be out of the area by around first pitch at the latest, closing in towards 8 o'clock Eastern. Your Atlanta Braves are minus 164 on the money line. The over-under is 9. Pick to click tonight? Well, obviously nobody has seen the rookie Mick Abel. We are going to go with Matt Olson. Looking at his splits, he pitches much better on the road. That's the one thing we should circle. All 7 of his home runs have been given up in Philadelphia, so you don't like that trend. But nonetheless, if you look at his righty-lefty splits, left-handers have an OPS of 963 against Mick Abel. Righties just 627. So we'll go with the ice house, maybe clear one into the chop house. We'll take your Atlanta Braves put a few runs up on the board after a couple of quiet nights. Give me Atlanta to win this one 7-4. Keys to the game tonight, it's going to be all about Bryce Elder. He's had a couple of really rocky starts here recently. The one thing you can say about Elder, he's just as effective versus righties or lefties. His OPS is 796 against, 800 versus lefties, 791 versus righties. Of the 11 home runs that Bryce Elder has given up, 9 have been on the road, so I expect him to pitch a much better game in the friendly confines of Truist Park. Braves need to make that rookie work, see his pitches, so the second and third time through the lineup, there will be hell to pay. You can't bail the youngster out by swinging early and off the plate. If the Braves offense does their job, I believe Bryce Elder will bounce back with a solid start tonight. And the back of the bullpen is well rested. Put your click in the chat, slap that like, and let's get ready, Braves Country. We'd like to thank everybody for choosing Braves Country Radio, and a special thanks to all the country club members. Please like on your way in and subscribe, set those alerts, and share Braves Country Radio to help build the crowd so we can continue to bring you the classic call of Braves Country Baseball. Well, it's about that time. Grab you a cold one. Find you an armchair. Atlanta Braves Baseball right here on Braves Country Radio. Your modern-day superstation is in its 5th season of bringing you pitch-by-pitch, play-by-play of your Atlanta Braves and our one-of-a-kind production. Take us anywhere you go for over 170 Atlanta Braves ball games. Please like and subscribe today. Join the Country Club. Thank you to all the Country Club members. You help support Braves Country Radio.
Get this bus moving. Stop. Come back. Too late.
Roll call! Yeah, roll call!
You're in Braves Country.
Good evening, Braves Country. Got a good one for you tonight. Bryce Elder going up against the Philadelphia Phillies, and that's not nothing. Who do we see in here tonight? Where do you hail from? I see Tree Nug checking in at 1:40 today. George Pearson chopping away at just after 3 o'clock. Robert Jameson Taylor. Iron Lung, good to see you. Billy Birdwell. Justin Hightower. Braden Quinn. Uncle Charlie Fritz. Royale in here tonight. Daniel Berry. Yeah. Oh, Gad, you devil. You remember those movies? I remember thinking they were really funny when I was a kid. I watched one recently. I was like, it's all right. Wasn't all that cracked up to be. Mark Ricky Ricardo. Star Wars must be the Philly series. Yeah, Star Wars, I saw your comment. They're expecting Bryce Harper back probably Monday if everything goes well. Who else do we have in here today? I assume we're Edward Spry. Jeremy Prosser. JC in the house. David McCumber, good to see you. Truth Mission. How you do it, D. Carroll? Jen J. Charlie Elrod. Thank you for the donation, Royale. As soon as I locate that button, there it is. Appreciate the donation. Who else do we have in here? My man Nathaniel Brooks. Tyler Benson. Swamp Boy. Nathaniel. Stargazer says this should be an easy sweep. Okay, buddy. All right, then. Israel Otero. Rob T. in the house. Think that's just about everybody. We're just about set for pitch-by-pitch, play-by-play of those Atlanta Braves. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, first pitch is on the way. Bryce Elder Day, and the Braves are wearing their Friday night reds. Wasn't sure if they're going to do it because they wore it so many times on the road. Somebody had to rush home and do laundry this morning. We'll be back in a flash. Hey, Braves Country, Mac McGee here for American Rebel Beer. America's patriotic light lager, all natural ingredients. Stand tall, be proud. The perfect beer to celebrate life, liberty, and your pursuit of the American dream. America's patriotic light lager, offering a crisp, clean, bold taste. Perfect beer to celebrate life, liberty, and your pursuit of the American dream. A beer with only 110 calories that tastes like a full-flavored beer and celebrates like freedom. Hey, Braves Country, this is Mac McGee with Braves Country Radio. We are bringing you pitch-by-pitch, play-by-play of your Atlanta Braves all year long. Join the Country Club today. Help support Braves Country Radio. Join the Country Club today. It helps us bring you more of the game we all love. Braves Country Radio, your home for the classic call of Braves Country Baseball. Hey, Braves Country, Mac McGee here for American Rebel Beer. From the mountains to the prairies to your pint glass with white foam, we're bringing back beer with a backbone. All that matters in our brew is taste and a touch of American excellence. American Rebel Beer, born in the USA.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the radio news.
Sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. There is nothing wrong. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension, a dimension of sound, a dimension of sight, a dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both things and ideas. You've just crossed over into
adventures in time and space.
We offer you
Braves Country Radio, your home for the classic call of Braves Country Baseball.
Hi, folks. Join us now for another Braves ball game. Yes, sir. This is the one we've been waiting for. This is it. This makes you feel like it's spring and baseball. No more measles and free tickets to the circus.
You're in Braves Country.
This is a reminder, disorderly conduct will not be tolerated. Please respect your fellow fan and refrain from any unruly behavior. Failure to comply with these guidelines will result in ejection.
Thank you for the kind words there, Uncle Charlie. And the support for the channel. We are just about set for pitch-by-pitch, play-by-play of your Atlanta Braves. As soon as the screen comes in for 3D, we're going to go ahead and take that card off the screen. It usually, like I've said it before, but sometimes it jumps, and it can make you nauseous, so I've tried to save y'all from that. Doesn't do it always, but sometimes it'll just absolutely start jumping around. Braves are wearing their home reds. Braves across the chest in navy, red jerseys, outlined in white. Same with the tomahawk, with yellow striping throughout the handle and the axe head, or tomahawk head. Numerals on the back in navy, outlined in white. Names in navy on the back. Philly, they are wearing their road grays tonight. Phillies across the chest in red, outlined in white. Gray shirt, gray pants. Braves are wearing a blue ball cap with a red bill. And the white A representing the city of Atlanta, Georgia. Philadelphia, they're wearing their red ball caps with the white P representing Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Got a full slate of games tonight, so we'll keep you up to date on what's going on around the scoreboard. Mets and Pirates have finally gotten underway. They had a bit of a rain delay up there in Pittsburgh, but it's nothing in the middle of the first. Yankees and A's, they are underway in New York. Nothing. Same as Tampa Bay and Baltimore. So it looks like most of the rain has moved out of that area. Twins and Tigers, they are in a rain delay in Detroit, Michigan. Padres and Reds, they are in a rain delay in Cincinnati, Ohio. We do have dark skies in the background. There is a forecast for rain in the area. Hopefully we get this thing off and going. The Braves screen has gone dark. Now the Phillies screen looks like that they're talking to the... And they're going to bring the tarps out. So... the umpires are explaining it to the Phillies and the Braves right now. Gonna take a quick look at this real quick. They're rolling the tarps out. They're rolling the tarps out, that's a bad sign, but it doesn't look like, according to the forecast, that if they do get rain, and it's a big if, that it's gonna last very long, but supposed to be clearing up out of the area according to the radar at around 8 o'clock, which means they could start shortly after that. And this may just be precautionary because they're, let's see if I'm looking at this. I mean, honestly, what's being forecast is right over this, over the stadium right now. I don't see any rain, but they do have dark skies in the background. So we'll see how long this takes. They're putting the tarps out. We're going to go to a Once Upon a Pastime series as we wait on this to clear. There was no indication of this earlier. I mean, I've been scanning the tweets all day long. None of the knuckleheads that run the Braves social media said anything until the very last minute. See if there's an actual update to see if there's any kind of... Nah, there's nothing. The Braves just announced it 2 minutes ago. And they like to play those games with the fans because they want to get them out to the ballpark and make them have to buy all their concessions. So with that being said, we're going to hit a Once Upon a Pastime. Let me pull one up real quick. I don't think this one's going to be terribly long, but we're going to see if we can see how far we can get through this one. This is a pretty entertaining one. Characters of the game on the Once Upon a Pastime series. As soon as we know something, we'll jump in and put it on the screen. Braves in a rain delay versus Philly. It's probably best they just wait for it to pass anyways. Last thing we want to do is get Elder out there. Then he has to go sit down. And the next thing you know, we're in a bullpen game. We'll be back as soon as action begins. Braves country. Any folks out there who aren't even Braves fans, you might get something out of this segment. This is the Once Upon a Pastime series we're going to do from time to time. And today we're going to look at some of the more colorful folks in the history of Major League Baseball. And the one that I want to start off with is Mr. Doc Ellis. He was known as quite the interesting fellow. Doc Ellis, just to give you an idea of who he was, what his actual baseball career was. Pitched for the Pittsburgh Pirates and from 68 to 75, then went to the Yankees for a couple of years in 76 and 77. Traded to the A's in 77. And then finished off his career with 3 years with Texas. And towards the end of the 79 season, was picked up by the Mets and then finished it with the Pittsburgh Pirates. All in all, 138 wins, 119 losses, 3.46 ERA. And all in all, a pretty darn good player. But what is he most known for in the history of Major League Baseball? He is known for throwing a no-hitter in 1970 for the Pittsburgh Pirates on LSD. He claims, now whether you want to buy the story or not, but whether it's true or not, Doc Ellis threw a no-hitter in 1970. That part's true. He's against San Diego Padres. Very young franchise at the time. So that always goes into, was a legitimate no-hitter. We're always going to make those jokes, right, when stuff like that happens. But no-hit the Padres, 2-0. He says he was under the influence of LSD. But here's where it gets interesting. Ellis was high the night before on his day off and took another hit around noon on game day, forgetting that the Pirates were due to play a doubleheader and to play 6 hours later. And this is a quote from him during that time period, because I was zeroed in on the catcher's glove, but I didn't hit the glove too much. I remember hitting a couple of batters, and the bases were loaded 2 or 3 times. The balls seemed small at times. The ball was large sometimes. It's like, what? And that was the old-fashioned, wildly effective, right? And that was Doc Ellis. And that's the best story. That's the reason why he was looked upon as a character. There were other things, putting curlers in his hair before the game, walking around like that. But I mean, his quote was, "I'm as high as Georgia pine," when he arrived at the friend's house that day after the game. And he claims that it helped him. I don't know how many of y'all have done psychedelic drugs in your time, but I can tell you a little birdie told me once. We'll just leave it at that. It can, if it's real good stuff, you're not throwing the baseball. You're just not. You're going to lose interest. You're going to walk off the mound. You're going to see things and want to talk about things. That's one of the biggest things. You just want to yap. And so I'm always curious about that second hit, if it was really a strong dose. Because it's not like drinking alcohol where you know what 1, 2, 3, 4 beers, etc. are going to do to the body in an X amount of time. These are wildly inconsistent drugs. But you never know. He could have peaked and came down, and at the time he was coming down, he could have possibly fought his way through it. But there's no way he's peaking. When people say, well, what is peaking? It means that you're getting the full effect of that buzz, that we'll call it. But basically, your mind's playing tricks on you. You can't make hide nor tail of anything for about 2 to 3 hours. So if he's on the other side of that, it's possible. But it's had to have been wild. He had to have been sitting there. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? For anyone who's actually partaken in such nonsense, can you imagine you drop and usually takes about a half hour to kick in, and someone mentions to you around that half hour, 45-minute range, it goes, well, we need to start warming up at around X o'clock, right? Whatever it was. Let's say he took it at noon. He's going to pitch at 6. Or the game's at 1. He's going to pitch at 7. He took it around noon. And someone tells him right around 1 o'clock because the first game's starting. So we need to start warming up around 4 or 5. You wouldn't be able to comprehend it. You'd be like, wait, what? What am I doing? And in 1970, you're not going to your coach and spilling the beans and telling him what happened. It was, nowadays you could probably go to a coach and say, look, man, I thought I was off today. They're going to look down at you, but you probably could have found some way to BS your way out of it, even if you weren't honest. What you can't fake is people who take this stuff. When you take it, your pupils get dilated very large. Now, you're not going to quite look like I'm trying to think of that one alien that's pretty much all eyes, but you're not going to quite look like that, but your pupils are going to be dilated, and it's going to be obvious to everybody. So that's why I question the timeline 100%, but it doesn't shock me that he probably had some kind of after effects. You could call it a hangover, but that's not really. It's a different bird. I'm not by any means condoning this. Stay the heck away from it. But if you've known anyone who's taken, they've explained it to you. And if you've done it yourself, you understand that it's not necessarily a hangover. Like your mind is still playing tricks on you. And you're still having a hard time, concentrating. But anyways, a wild, wild story in the history of Major League Baseball, 1970. I mean, what are we doing? 53 years ago, give or take, whenever you're listening to this, right? June 12th, 1970. How about that? And you thought you lived a life. Hey, remember that old picture you'd see with Waylon Jennings in front of the Jimmy Carter and his wife, and say you might be cool, but you're not smoking a cigarette in the White House kind of cool. Waylon's fired up a cigarette. You might be cool, but you're not dropping acid and or LSD. You're not dropping Sid and throwing a no-hitter in the major leagues kind of cool. That's going to be a hard one for anyone to ever beat. Someone might have to really tell a tall tale to beat that story. So that's example number one. We're going to go into some of these, and I hope you have a good time with it. The next guy that I want to make sure that we talk about, because it's a guy that everybody knows of, and it's a guy also that, because of his personality, I don't think it's ever been given the credit of how damn good he was. And a couple of guys today we're going to talk about like that. But one of them is Yogi Berra. And Yogi Berra, everybody knows of the Yogi-isms. What they may or may not know about him is that he was a World War II, decorated World War II veteran. He was there for D-Day. He was driving one of the gunner boats, getting shot at. So if he never did anything else the rest of his life, he was a hell of a guy. Hell of an American, right? But then he went on to, and I still say it, he's the best catcher to ever play the game. Everybody normally, especially if you get folks who grew up in the 70s, watching baseball in the 70s. I caught the tail end of his career, so I can't say I ever actually watched him in his prime. But most folks always go to Johnny Bench. Johnny Bench grew up in a different era, but Johnny Bench had a cannon for an arm. Johnny Bench was a very good hitting catcher. Wasn't a great hitting catcher, but he's a very good hitting catcher. But this isn't about tearing Johnny Bench down. This is about what Yogi Berra did. Yogi Berra, 358 home runs lifetime from behind the plate in an era where catchers were typically known to hit maybe 10 in a year. More impressively, at 285 batting average. In an era where catchers, they didn't hit their weight. His OPS was 830. OPS plus, which I don't give as much credit to, but it still tells you how phenomenal it was. His OPS plus was 125. 100 is considered solid. 1,430 RBIs. I don't know how that man with those short little legs got him, but he got 30 stolen bases in his career. Scored 1,179 runs. Was elected to the All-Star game every single year from 1948 to 1962. What? Yeah. He was the MVP in 1951. He was the MVP in 54 and 55. He came second in the MVP voting twice. Third once. So 6 times a catcher was in the MVP voting in the top 3. And if you want to count the time that he came in 4th, that was right in that same stretch, from 1950 to 1956, I don't know if we'll ever see that kind of a stretch from a catcher. We've never seen it in the history of Major League Baseball. I don't know if we'll ever see it again. And that is just an incredible feat when you think about Yogi Berra. And he was altogether he was an 18-time All-Star. 13-time World Series champion. Michael Jordan's the greatest ever. He's won 6. That's not even half. 13-time world champion. Now, granted, they weren't all as a player. The last 3 that I mentioned was as a coach, but still, he won it 10 times as a player. 3-time AL MVP. Heck, Michael Jordan can't even make the playoffs as an owner. That's so sad. And, of course, he's probably more than being in the Hall of Fame. In an 85.6, really, Yogi Berra, second ballot. Get the hell out of here. These baseball writers, idiots. So many of them have this rule they won't vote, especially back then. They're starting to bend. But they have this rule back for years and years and years. They wouldn't vote you on the Hall of Fame ballot the first year. That changed when they said that if you're not on the ballot, if you don't get X amount of percent each year, they're going to take you off. So then you feel a little more pressure. Well, I better vote for him. I can't be the idiot that is the reason why a guy like a Yogi Berra doesn't make the Hall of Fame. But back in those days, they would just, it was almost like the old thing with college football where you wouldn't start a freshman. They wouldn't vote for a freshman into the Hall of Fame. Even still, man, second vote, he should have been. These are the things when they say that Mario Rivera was the first ever 100% MVP, 100% voted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. These are the things that make you go, what the hell are you doing, man? What are we talking about? Yogi Berra, of all people, wouldn't be considered not just a first ballot, but a 100% first ballot. There's so many guys you could go in. Yes. That's the one thing the Hall of Fame in baseball gets wrong. They're still the best Hall of Fame because it's still the most difficult to get in, but that's the one thing they get wrong. And they've gotten it wrong for so long, it's almost hard to overcorrect it. Because then you start putting everybody in, and then it's going to kind of, it's going to cheapen. But to say that a relief pitcher is the only one, because remember Derek Jeter got in except for one vote. To say a relief pitcher is the only one is the stupidest thing if you ever thought about it in the history of baseball. Babe Ruth, son of a... Come on! Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron. Get out of here. As my grandfather used to say, go take a long walk off a short pier. But what I thought would be fun to talk about with Yogi Berra today, because I just wanted people to get an idea of who this guy was. War hero, the greatest catcher to ever play the game. Because I have to take the whole thing into consideration. Johnny Bench is a very close number 2, but Yogi's number 1. And if you think it's Berra, I mean, if you think it's Johnny Bench, there's two reasons. You're either a Reds head, love the Cincinnati Reds, and you're gonna die on that hill, or you grew up in that era and didn't see Yogi play, so you're always gonna get. And I get that, but if you look at it, he is the best. You know, if you put Yogi Berra into your Google machine or whatever machine you use, the first thing that pops up is not going to be Hall of Fame, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be Yogiisms, right? It's the one thing we're all going to see, Yogiisms. And I'm just going to go over a few of them that I think people would enjoy, because it may be some of the ones that are a little less, known. Because Yogi did a lot of things for America, but the humor that he brought is unrivaled. So I'm going to grab a few of them and just kind of go through that. This is a great one. If the world were perfect, it wouldn't be. You think about it, it's kind of deep, but it's a great line. I did love the fact that he said, if I didn't make it in baseball, I wouldn't have made it to work. I didn't like to work. I don't believe that. Any guy that fought in World War II and was on the beaches of Normandy, you wouldn't have scared him off by much, but I love that line. I'm lucky. Usually you're dead to get your own museum, but here I am. Let me see. Let me grab a couple, because I'm going to skip some of these, because if you go through every single one of them, it's getting a little monotonous. This is a great one. Take it with a grain of salt. So I'm ugly. I never saw anyone hit with his face. You got to figure that had to be towards a reporter. I never saw anyone hit with his face. You got to love that. If you ask me, I don't know. I'm going to answer. It ain't the heat, it's the humility. This is probably one of the best things that he ever said. Probably more accurate than of all the quotes. And this is the type of thing that, this is t-shirt worthy, mainly because it's small enough. I never said most of the things I said. I'm not going to buy my kids an encyclopedia. Let them walk to school like I did. What? What? I see how Sandy Koufax won 25 games. I really don't understand how he lost those 5. That's probably accurate. I never saw Sandy Koufax pitch, obviously, but I've seen the video, and I know the numbers. That dude looked darn near unhittable. He hits from both sides of the plate. He's amphibious. Even Napoleon had his Watergate. Of course, that was actually after his playing days. That was in the 70s. But even Napoleon had his Watergate. You gotta love that. This one ain't really funny, but it's kind of funny coming from a catcher's. All pitchers are liars or crybabies. Why do you buy good luggage? You only use it when you go see people you don't know. Pair up in threes. We have deep depth. This is a famous one of his. It gets late early out here. If the people don't want to come to the ballpark, nobody's going to stop them. The future ain't what it used to be. Whoa. Is that not apropos for today? How can you hit and think at the same time? How can you hit and think at the same time? Slump, I ain't in no slump. I just ain't hitting real well. Never answer an anonymous letter. What? I usually take a 2-hour nap from 1 to 4. That's probably pretty accurate if you really think about it. Anytime I've ever, I almost can't do it nowadays, but anytime I try to take a nap in the afternoon, man, it's going to take me almost an hour to fall asleep. At least 30 minutes. There's no way I could do a 2-hour nap anymore. I don't remember the last time I could do a 2-hour nap. I'm going to wake up after an hour and sun's out and I'm going to panic. I'm like, wait, where am I supposed to be? You better cut the pizza in 4 pieces because I'm not hungry enough to eat 6. Years ago I heard that quote and I didn't know where it came from. When I found out it came from Yogi, it made a lot of sense. I don't know who he was referring to, but he said, congratulations. I knew the record would stand until it was broken. Always go to other people's funerals, otherwise they won't come to yours. What? This sounds like something out of a country song. A nickel ain't worth a dime anymore. Any of you country music singers, there's your line for the next #1 hit. Baseball is 90% mental, and the other half is physical. No one goes there nowadays. It's too crowded. He also said at one point, nobody lives in New York City. It's too crowded. It's like deja vu all over again. How many times have you heard that one? That was originally credited to Yogi Berra. And it ain't over till it's over was laughed about at the time as a yogiism. But you think about it now and people use that in the world of sports. And it's a battle cry from time to time. You can observe a lot just by watching. There's a nugget of truth in a lot of these, right? But this is the great one. When you come to a fork in the road, you got to take it. What? What are we doing? All right, that was Yogi Berra. Let's take a break. When we come back, we got a couple other colorful characters to get into. Braves Country, Once Upon a Pastime series. We will be back in a flash.
The most popular and most notorious star of the 19th century was Michael Joseph King Kelly, the sure-handed catcher for the Chicago White Stockings. He was so skilled at stealing bases, he once stole 6 in a single game, that he inspired a popular song, Slide, Kelly, Slide. He sometimes cut across the diamond, skipping second altogether when the umpire was not looking. Kelly drank as hard as he competed. Once, A.G. Spaulding put Pinkerton detectives on his trail and accused him of having been in a saloon at 3 a.m. drinking lemonade. Kelly was indignant. It was straight whiskey, he said. I never drank a lemonade at that hour in my life.
And, well, we're going to tell the tale of Michael King Kelly. He played for Boston. We'll get into his stats real quick, just so you get an idea of who these guys were. Had a lifetime batting average of .307, which was looked upon as pretty good at the time, pretty darn good at the time. That was the dead ball era. It's very hard to get base hits back in those days, and a 300 hitter was looked upon as elite. His OPS, interesting enough, is above 800. There weren't a lot of guys back in that dead ball era that had an OPS over 800. But he got a lot of doubles, triples, etc. And hit for a high batting average. Had 368 steals, 950 RBI. 950 RBI in that day and time was a lot. Along with his 1,357 runs scored. He typically hit at the top of the order. Had, 368 stolen bases and an OPS plus. Remember we just talked about that. Of 138. That's up there. That is absolutely up there, because when you think about the Yogi Berra, where is with 125, that's a high. I mean, he's in for folks who don't understand the OPS plus. It takes into account of everything going on at the time, including what stadiums you were playing in. That's why I've always said the number's a little goofy to me. It's not what, I would necessarily look at typically, but it does give you an idea. It gives you an idea of what's going on with the actual player that you're looking at in the annals of history. Now, he started in 1878, and he played for the Cincinnati Reds. Then he went to the Chicago Cubs from 1880 to 1886. He then played from 1877 to 1879. He played for the Boston Beaneaters. And we all know that they became the Atlanta Braves. Then he did play for the Boston Reds. And this is back when the National League, American League, all this stuff was starting to come into play, right? In 1890, he played in the Players League for the Boston team at that time. They were called the Boston Reds Statistics. God, would that name be popular today? Reds Statistics. Doesn't really flow off the... Someone eventually is going to be named the something stats. I do believe that we're heading for one day there's going to be teams named. No longer will they be the Boston Braves, the Atlanta Braves, the Milwaukee Braves. It's going to be the Atlanta. If they keep the Braves moniker, it'll be the Atlanta Braves, brought to you by, and that'll be all over your hat. But I think there's more likely that you're gonna get an expansion team in our lifetime, I believe, that starts off with, because it's going to help fund the team. It'll be something to the effect of, take a city who doesn't have a team yet. Let's take Nashville and say Nashville gets a team. And Nashville, what's it known for more than anything else? Music, right? And you get something like the Nashville Spotify or the Nashville YouTube Music. It'll be something like that. And maybe they'll put music in the names, the Spotify music, and they'll come up with a logo that is nothing but that has a tune involved in it, but then you'll also have your corporate logo ingrained into it. That's coming. But anyways, back to Mike King Kelly. He ended up playing 16 years. He finished in 1893, the New York Giants. So he was literally in the dead ball era. It was shortly after baseball to become professional. Remember, the Atlanta Braves had only been around less than a decade when he came in. So, the Atlanta Braves franchise, it's been all over the place, but now currently rests in God's country in Atlanta, Georgia, right? But, so you're talking about one of the very infants of Major League Baseball. And one of the things you got to understand about this time period, I don't go into all the weeds of the history that's going on. We're coming out of the Civil War and all that kind of stuff. And strangely enough, there was not a color barrier until later on. So you did have folks from all walks of life playing in these leagues at the beginning. It wasn't the color barrier started in the late 1890s. There was a lot of political unrest and a lot of stuff went into that. And so that's why you'll go back and say, wait a minute, how was this guy in there? I thought Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. He did, because there wasn't really a written color barrier. And there never was a written color barrier. There was just kind of agreement upon the owners at the time, around the turn of the century, to push out folks because they thought it would run off. And honestly, these owners of any sport at any time, no matter their race or creed, they would have put the color barrier down and said, to heck with it, who cares, if they thought that it was going to help them sell tickets. But they thought the opposite. Whether there's any logistical reason to that, I don't think there was. But that was the theory. What was that, 130 years ago? A lot of things have changed. You know, it's not just the societal differences, but you think about other things that have changed over the last 130 years or less. I mean, it is a different world. And I'm sure, you know, if you think about, if you go to 1900, you take 130 years before that, different world then too, right? Because you're talking about literally under British rule, right before the American Revolution. But in the late 1870s to early 1890s, he played. First of all, that's pretty phenomenal. He played 16 years. Think about all the injuries that shorten guys' careers nowadays and all the medical advancement we have. And these guys played rough. They would run you over, spikes high, all that stuff. But he's one of my favorite players for a couple of reasons. A, you heard the clip coming in where he's talking about, you know, someone saying that he was in a saloon till 3 a.m. drinking lemonade. And he said, that's a damnable lie. I never drank lemonade at that time of my life. You got to love that line. Like, I might have been in that saloon. But you think I was drinking lemonade? You got another thing coming. He wanted to make sure that he set the story straight on that, right? Not that he had broken curfew. The fact that he didn't want anyone to think that he was drinking lemonade at 3 a.m. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1945. Remember, the Hall of Fame didn't come around until 1937. So that was the 9th year of its existence, and they were only letting a few folks in each year. And how long they'd been playing baseball at that point was in the, what are we talking about, 70, almost 80 years at that point. So to be inducted in the first decade, you were elite. And so he got in. as one of the just unbelievable characters of Major League Baseball. He is the reason why when you make a substitution in Major League Baseball, you're gone for good. He's also the reason why, because no one thought about it at the time, they're just doing it. He's also the reason why in Major League Baseball, you have to wait till the play is over to make a substitution. And here's the reason why. King Kelly would routinely be on the bench. A ball is hit, popped up in the air, or vice versa. He could be in the field and he would yell it out. But a ball's popped up in the air, and back then you didn't have the dugouts that were actually dug in. These guys were just sitting on benches near the lines. The ball be popped up in the air in foul territory, and he would say, Michael Kelly in for, say, Joe Smith, who's playing, we'll say he's playing right field. He's no chance of getting to the ball, but I can get to it. Michael Kelly in for Joe Smith. He would come over, he'd make the catch, throw the ball back into the infield, and say Joe Smith back in for Michael Kelly. And that's why we have that rule, because of Michael King Kelly. And if nothing else, he'll always be one of my favorite players. My next guy's my favorite player of all time. But if nothing else, you got to love that. You got to absolutely love the fact that he was that innovative. He was also known to, and this is what led to multiple umpires on the field. You ready for this? So back then, you typically had two umpires. You had one for the base paths, one behind the plate. The one behind the plate routinely was not paying attention because he was getting in position to see if there was going to be a play at the plate. So let's say there's a guy at third, and Kelly's on first, and the one umpire in the field is standing at second base, right? The ball gets hit to a fly ball. And as it's heading towards the outfield, the second base umpire has his back turned, making sure the guy caught it. Home plate umpires position himself to be able to look at down the third base line to see if there's going to be a play at the plate. Mike Kelly would tag up. He would also do this on singles, where the umpire's turning to look into the outfield to see if the guy's going to make the catch. And he would run from first across the grass to third. Literally going first to third on a short single. Infielders raising hell about it, but the two umpires on the field didn't see it, so they wouldn't call it. They have a good idea he probably didn't do it. So they came up with the third umpire because of Michael King Kelly. So this guy, he doesn't get the credit he deserves. He was innovative. He was absolutely innovative. Born in Troy, New York. He was born of Irish immigrants. His father joined the Union Army, and his father basically brought the game back and was teaching young Michael how to, because one of the things that always gets looked over in Civil War history is that these guys played baseball a lot when they were out there in the fields, some version of it. Because it was a growing game. It was very popular. It was catching on like wildfire through the country. And both the Southern and Northern, but the Union and Confederate armies, they were out there playing baseball to pass the time. Waiting for the next war. There's actually talks of when there's actually proof of when during the Civil War when they would have like a ceasefire type of moment, and the Confederate soldiers would play against the Union soldiers in a baseball game. And then after the game, they knew the ceasefire was at a certain time. They'd go back to their quarters. How about that? Imagine that. Imagine us in the middle of a war with whoever, and a soccer game breaks out. That's not happening nowadays. But he was, by 15 years old, he was playing on the amateur team. And he would jump from team to team during this whole thing with the National League, and the American League, the Players League, and a couple of others. There were a bunch of leagues that tried to pop up. The Federal League. There were a lot of leagues that tried to pop up in around a 20 to 30 year time span that was trying to rival the National League. That's why it's always been called the Senior Circuit, because it was here first. Junior Circuit is always referred to as the American League, because the American League showed up around the turn of the century. But leading up to that, you had a lot of different leagues. And so King Kelly would jump from team to team, whoever's paying him the most. And Michael King Kelly, after the 1886 season, Spalding, sold Kelly from Chicago. And yes, it's the same Spalding. He was a team owner of the White Stockings, and it's the same guy that names on the ball, and that same Spalding, Warren G. Spalding. He sold Kelly to the Bean Eaters for a record at that time, $10,000. Just sold him for straight cash, which they did that a lot at the time, because a lot of them were spending money on other things. Baseball was just a small part of their income, and they would, we all know the famous story of No Nanette selling Babe Ruth to fund the Broadway play. But Kelly did not want to return to Boston, and Spalding, when he heard about the plans, said, quote, "Then tie him up, I guess, if he's really averse to playing there. We may have to be ugly about this, but he's heading to Boston." He had already planned to spend that $10,000 to start making baseball. This is when Spalding really took off on the whole baseball thing. He ended up going, but because of it, his nickname became known as the $10,000 Beauty. Because in 1881, actress Louise Montague had been also dubbed, after winning a $10,000 contest for the, you wouldn't use this term anymore, but at the time, handsomest woman in the world. Nowadays, when you think of handsome, it's always sent towards men. But it was a beauty contest. It was like a Miss America pageant type thing. And so he became known as the $10,000 Beauty because of the same thing, because it happened in the same time period. But he ended up being a manager. He was really known for his wildness, his drinking, hell raising, all that kind of stuff. And that's the story of Michael King Kelly. In fact, he had a famous song dubbed after him called "Slide Kelly Slide." And it was America's first pop hit record. You want a nugget to throw at your friends to throw them off. Slide Kelly Slide was America's first pop hit record. After its release in Edison Studios in 1927, inspired a film version, Slide Kelly Slide. Kelly was considered to have been the first man to popularize autographing. He would go and sign things for fans. And he would also get out on the vaudeville circuit, did a lot of acting and whatnot. Really talented guy. And Most folks believe that the poem Casey at the Bat, which I read in pregame before each ball game, Casey at the Bat, the famous Ernest Lawrence Thayer poem from 1888, most believe it was written about Michael King Kelly. Now, it could have been with Cap Anson. That's the big debate, but Kelly's right there. So that's Michael King Kelly. All right, when we come back, we're going to hit up another one. I wanted to do 5 of these today, but I think I'm only going to get to a fourth one. So we'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country, Once Upon a Pastime series. Don't go anywhere.
That's the beauty of baseball. There's no time limit. You have to. You have to let the other guy have an opportunity. It's not basketball. We can run the clock out and pass it around and foul each other for the last 3 minutes of the game. We're not running the ball up the middle or taking a knee like it is in football. You have to face your opponent. Your opponent has every opportunity down to the very last pitch of the game to win a game. That's the beauty of baseball. That's why I love baseball the way I do. The DH, I'm an American League guy. You know that. I love the DH. I understand the league people wouldn't want it, and I don't think they should do it in both leagues. Keep it the way it is. What's wrong with the DH? DH
Yeah, because
in the American League?
if you put the DH in the National League, the American League would never win another World Series. It would make it an even playing field.
I don't think that's exactly how it would play out.
Armchair.
Now, for me, I wasn't good enough to guess pitches. I looked for one pitch every at bat. Every pitch was fastball right down the middle. Yeah. That's it. As soon as I saw it, I would swing. So I'd look fastball down the middle every single pitch, and my approach was to stay to right center field.
One afternoon on the Brooklyn waterfront, a boy named William Cummings, known to his friends as Candy, noticed that he could make a clamshell curve when he hurled it through the air, and began to wonder if he might be able to do the same thing one day with a baseball. In April 1867, now pitching for the Brooklyn Excelsiors, Candy Cummings tried out his new pitch. Though it was outlawed, everyone started throwing the curveball. Purists were appalled.
You're listening to Braves Country Baseball on Braves Country HD. Once Upon a Pastime series where we kind of go outside the lines, maybe stay a little in the lines, however you want to look at it. And I thought this would be a good one to finish off with. We're not going to get to a couple of guys, but I'll do that in another one. A couple of the guys that I am planning on doing in the future on this series, covering in this series, is we're going to go over Bob Uecker and his contribution to baseball, along with my favorite player of all time, Rube Waddell, and the stories about him. But I thought Candy Cummings, he gets no love, no look, and for good reason. You folks who love WAR, his career WAR was 36.2. It's not so great. Played 6 years. He was pretty dominant. Played from the age of 23 to the age of 28. And in those 6 years, 145 wins. A 2.42 ERA, which actually back then wasn't great. It was pretty average. Maybe a tad under, but not as like it, today. If someone left the game with 2.42 ERA, you'd be like, holy crap. But this was literally the dead ball era at the very beginning. I mean, he's playing for the New York Mutuals, the Baltimore Canaries, The Philadelphia Whites. Lord, I don't want to know what that was about. Hartford Dark Blues. I'm joking. The Philadelphia Whites was they often, just like the Reds, they named it after their colored uniform. And then he played for the Dark Blues for twice, and then the Cincinnati Reds. And the Reds, obviously, the Reds were originally the Red Legs because they wore red socks, and they didn't want to be called Red Sox because Boston had grabbed the Red Sox. So, and none of those teams, except for the final one, Cincinnati Reds, and I'm sorry, the Hartford Blues did play in the National League for a short time in 1876, and he was a part of that. So, you look at Candy Cummings. He was born in 1848. And he is a guy that, according to legend, created the curveball. I haven't heard a very good argument pointing to someone before him, so I'm going to go with it. You got to understand something about that time period with Candy Cummings. Is he's playing a game right before this time period. So we're talking about the very infancy of professional baseball would have been just before the Civil War, about a decade or so, give or take, depending on your area of the country. New York saw it come into effect. They had competitive teams. I don't know if you want to call them professional teams, but they had competitive teams. New York City is really the birth of what we call baseball today. That took place in going from around the 1840s, 1850s. So Cummings was born in 1848. During that time period, right around that time period, the pitcher was just a part of the game. He was just to lob it in there. Then when it became professional, you wanted to win, then the competitive juices got involved, and eventually folks were like, wait a minute, why am I just lobbing it in there? I'm not throwing it to my guy. If I'm throwing it to, and a lot of teams back then would send their pitcher out to throw their guys. Now, this is the beginning. This is when you'd have, not only were they lobbing it in there, sometimes you'd have 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50 people in the outfield colliding into each other. But I'm talking about when you got to what everyone looks at as baseball today, that really hasn't changed in darn near going on 200 years. It's 9 men on the field, and you're trying to get the guy out, and that started about 150-ish years ago, give or take. Cummings comes along, and it was just coming out of, you're not trying to deceive the batter. And so he comes along, and he is born in Massachusetts. In the area of Massachusetts, in that area, he is inundated with it's pretty much all baseball at this point. Remember, basketball hasn't even been invented. Football hasn't begun yet. Remember, they started football because they wanted men to stay in shape and stay tough to be ready for war, because we hadn't been in a major war in a while. Baseball is, as I always say, is the true sport. And he's growing up towards the end of the 19th century. And he discovered the idea of the curveball with seashells, according to his story, according to his biography. After noticing the movement, the way they would curve heading towards the water, he's tossing them. He thought to himself, can I make a baseball do that? Now, back then it was a little different, a little more difficult, because at that time, baseballs were not uniform. And you didn't have all the 108 stitches like you do today. Some of them had stitches, some of them didn't. So it really depended on what you had. But as the game evolved and we got the Spalding ball and we got the tightly wound and we got the 108 stitches and every baseball is supposed to be alike, down the road, that's what but it all comes off of the invention of the curveball. And he's playing for the Brooklyn Excelsiors Club in 1867, an October day in 1867. And they're going against the Harvard College team. And he would later say, a surge of joy flooded over me that I never shall forget. I felt like shouting out I had made a ball curve. But I said not a word and saw many batters throw down their stick in disgust. And so it essentially changed the game of baseball. That was 1867. After that, once you see one guy do it, he's going to like, how's he doing that? Well, guys are going to watch you do it, and they just pick it up. But he essentially invented it. And I think it's an incredible story when you think about, he played 6 years in professional ball. What did he really, why are we talking? Because he invented the curveball, which transformed into every single pitch you can think of to this day that's not named the four-seam fastball. Because before that, guys were just grabbing the ball and chucking it. Now, the beginning of baseball, a lot of them were much smoother, so there wouldn't be as much movement if you tried to do what you do today. But now the different grips of a baseball, the way folks will bring a ball and grip a ball, the way that you would, you got your four seam, you've got your two seam, the way they snap the wrist, you've got the cutter, you've got the, all of these. It all came off of Sandy Cumming and all of him saying, man, I wonder if I can make a damn seashell or make a baseball do what a seashell is doing. And essentially, he did. And I'm sure he was just absolutely shocked that it actually worked. This guy that basically changed baseball stood 5'9", 120 pounds. But he got into the major leagues and he was out there having people whiffing. Left and right, whiffing. Couldn't make contact with these pitches. The thing that I would like to know, because there were times in baseball that the rules have changed and statistics have changed. I'm going to throw one at you. So this guy's invented the curveball, right? No one's ever seen it. In 1872, no, let's go to 1873. He's already been throwing it a year. Oh no, you know what? Let's do 1872. His first year in the league. He throws 497 pitches. What? Where was his load management? 497 innings. They didn't believe in that old, give him 5 days rest kind of nonsense, right? Where you at, Kodai Senga? With I can only pitch once a week. Shohei Ohtani, I can only pitch once a week. This guy was pitching once a day. But 497 innings off of 55 games, too. Think about that anyways. 45 strikeouts. And he was known as a strikeout machine. Now, the highest he ever got was in 1875, he had 82 strikeouts. But that was looked upon as an enormous amount of strikeouts at the time. Because people didn't strike out because it was a badge of honor to not strike out. You struck out, you were looked upon as a thumb. Useless. Worthless. What are we doing with you? And so that, to me, is Candy Cummings in a nutshell. The history of baseball. Guys rarely struck out back in those days because they would shorten up the swing and they would do the crossover and just tap the ball, put it in play, and see what can happen. The defenders were nowhere near as talented as skilled as they are today, so if you put the ball in play, you never know. But that's Candy Cummings. And he changed the game of baseball. Guy that nobody talks about, but he changed the game of baseball. Someone would have came up with it, sure. But he did it. Candy Cummings, to me, for that very reason, is a guy that when you look at all his accolades, in 1939, we just talked about how often things happened. I mean, about how the Hall of Fame came in 1937. In 1939, Candy Cummings was in the Hall of Fame, even though he'd only played those 6 seasons. Because everybody knew the story of Candy Cummings. More people need to know that story. All right. Hope y'all enjoyed this little bit of baseball today. Once Upon a Pastime series here on Braves Country Baseball. And y'all have a good afternoon. All right, y'all. We just got an update from the Braves, and it doesn't sound great. We are continuing to monitor the weather, and we'll share updates as they become available. And what that says to me is it's going to be a long, long time before they start the game, because typically when they're going to start it relatively soon, we've heard something by now, and instead we're sitting here in a holding pattern. So as opposed to having y'all just hang on and hang on and hang on, we're going to go ahead and kill this stream. If they come back, in the very near future, we'll jump on here. But if it ends up being a late night, there's a good chance that we're not going to be able to come back on, because I've got radio stations waiting as well. And honestly, if they don't have a game plan by now, and what's really strange about it is I just pulled up the radar. There's a huge cell that wasn't there earlier. So I know radars are weird, but it was not there earlier. And you look at the movement, it is dragging across, and it doesn't look like it's going to be gone till, according to this radar, it's not going to leave the area till after 10 o'clock. And then you've got another half hour after that because then they pull the tarps off and then they get the pitchers ready. So I don't even know if they're going to play this game. And if I end up having to do a double header tomorrow, I need to get off here and shut it down and get ready, because there's a very good chance that's what we're looking at. So that's it. I mean, I'm not kicking you all out. There's nothing left to do. And I just have my doubts that this game's getting played tonight. And usually they have something, a rough estimate when they come on and say after an hour, over an hour, they say we're monitoring the situation. That means that we're talking about at least another hour and a half before they even throw a pitch. And like I said, I'm looking at the at the radar, it's not leaving the area till well after 10 o'clock. Now, I'm just going off of what I see on this radar. Hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully they say something in the very near future and we'll jump on. But if not, we'll see y'all tomorrow. And if there's a doubleheader, I'll be here. And if there's a doubleheader, then I need to go ahead and shut it down because it's going to be a long day tomorrow if they end up doing a doubleheader. Y'all have a good night, Braves Country. I apologize. This came out of nowhere. I was not expecting this game to have this long of a delay, if any, and it came out of nowhere. And I just have to go off the radar that I pull up. And I was listening to a couple other outlets trying to figure out, and they don't seem very hopeful that there's going to be any kind of a ball game. If there is a ball game tonight, it's going to be extremely late. And I just know from experience from the past, people aren't going to sit on here until 10:30, 11 o'clock waiting for the game to come on. Everyone will eventually jump off of there, and I'll be talking to myself. Y'all have a good night, y'all. Like I said, if something changes in the very near future, I'll jump on here, but if I don't hear something here in a little while, I'm going to get ready for what is most likely going to be a doubleheader tomorrow. Y'all have a good night.